Hey guys, it's Bree coming to you with the B Face, and today I am going to be reviewing one of my favorite shows of all time. Don't ask me why I love trash TV. I am going to be reviewing Ready to Love. I'm not sure what season they're saying they're on because they number them weird. It's like 4A and B and what have you. In terms of cast, it's the sixth one. So this is season 6, episode 2. I didn't get to the mixer in time, so I am going to be starting off with episode 2. And I'm just gonna give my opinion on my thoughts on the interactions, things like that. And of course, talk to me in the comments, y'all. Let me know what you think. Okay, so let's get into it. So the very first thing we see is a brunch date. And so we see the whole cast get together, which we like when that happens because everyone gets to interact and you kind of get to see what that looks like apart from, let's say, their connections. You get to see everyone interact because you know they interacting off camera, right? So it starts off with Tiffany, okay? Now, Tiffany, this whole episode was giving very much like, it's not even I want to be here. It's I want to have this one track thing and y'all fall in line if you feel like it, right? Like, and that's fine, you know, being secure in yourself, but that's not what it came off as. It came off as defensive, right? So like the first thing I noticed was she sat down at a table by herself, and Clifton was sitting with Joy, I think, right at a table next to them. And I guess he said hi, and she said something like, well, I'm not trying to interrupt y'all conversation. He was like, well, you sat here, so I'm saying hi. I didn't understand that. That read weird. I didn't know why that happened. She clearly likes Wiley. She got very upset. Tiffany, we're still talking about Tiffany. She got very upset that Dakia sat down at the same table. And I didn't understand that because I'm like, this is an open seating brunch. It wasn't like you sat down at a table for 2 and she pulled up a chair. There were 4 chairs. So I don't, and plus a dating show where there are multiple players. Make it make sense. So that was Tiffany at the brunch date. I was not a fan. And so Tommy comes in, gives his little curveball. Ace and Laverne are supposed to be meeting the 2 new singles that are coming on. Sidebar, Laverne is fine without those glasses on. OMG. Like, I get he's attractive in the glasses, but without the glasses, I was like, oh, where'd you come from, sir? Because at the mixer, I thought Cliff was the only fine one at the mixer. But this episode, I was like, oh, Laverne, hi, sir. Hello, what's up? And so that's the brunch date. That was basically it. I did like at the end where Clifton and Joy are sitting together. And he's like, no, sit down. I'm not done talking to you. Like, I want to spend time with you. They are so cute together. Like, he's fine on his own, but they are cute together. And I like that he likes her and he's expressing that to her. That's very cute. So, y'all, if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my little paper, my little notes. So the blind dates happen, and Laverne is meeting the lady, and her name's Carmen. And Ace is meeting Cornelius. I was hoping we would get a better Cornelius than we had last season because some of these names are repeating. So Carmen and Laverne seem to hit it off really well. Interestingly enough, that conversation really read weird to me. I mean, it's hard to tell real or not on TV, but the conversation didn't seem like 2 people flirting with each other and really liking each other and enjoying each other. It just seemed like 2 extroverts meeting for the first time and having a conversation. Like, Air Force, like, weights, exercise. Like it was like that to me. Like it just read very snippety. Again, could just be the context of this is TV. We're not seeing the whole thing or the whole conversation uninterrupted. I get that part. Cornelius and Ace seem to get along. I didn't care for Cornelius. I really didn't. And I don't know necessarily what it is. It just, like, he's a nice looking guy. He seemed really cool and respectful to Ace. And apparently the consensus with the men is that Ace is just peaceful and love embodied, right? Which I can see her being like a really calm presence, and she seems like a really nice person. But she seemed to hit it off with Cornelius. I did wonder why, like, when they were introducing Cornelius and they did like the photos and stuff, I'm trying to figure out what reason they had for showing that man in the bed with like the underwear on. I didn't understand that part. It was like this fluffy thing behind him. And I was like, what? Why is that the picture you chose? Are you choosing these pictures, or they were just scrolling through your Instagram? In that case, why was that on your Instagram? I don't understand. Like, I didn't like that picture. I didn't get it. That was sidebar. And then Ace asked Cornelius a question like, what makes you happy? Which I think is a very good question. I think that's something like, if you're dating, that's a very telling, what the answer is. That's very telling about a person. So Cornelius said he likes ocean breeze, new money, and great sex. And I think that was on like a relaxation theme. Okay, like cool. What was interesting was he said great sex. Ace said, so you're affectionate. And I mean, I don't know if it was a question or if she equated the two, but I'm like, great. He didn't say he was affectionate. He said he liked great sex. Like, sex does not equal affection all the time. And that was an interesting point. I'm wondering, like I said, was it a question? Do you like affection, or do you just like great sex? Or was it a miscommunication, or not even miscommunication? It's like, from point A to point B, something's not tracking, right? Like, he said great sex, you heard affection. That's what I'm trying to get at. Like, were you asking him, or did you hear that? That's it. That was an interesting point for me. So yeah, that was that. That was the blind dates. I mean, they seemed like cool people, so maybe they'll last pretty long. Particularly Carmen, because Laverne seems to really enjoy her. It's okay. And then we get to a couple of individual dates. Paul and Joy go out on a date. And this was so interesting. Don't really care about their date all that much, but it was so interesting to see Paul in this environment because he read more genuine this time around. And I feel like at the mixer, I don't know if it was just the environment of like, when you're in a new place, and I know for me, like I have an on button, right? And so I know that when I'm in a new place where I don't necessarily know anyone else and I might be out of my element, I have an on button, right? And that doesn't mean that I'm not myself. It just means I'm a little more energetic. I'm a little more jokey. I'm a little more, just to get past some of the nervousness that can come when you're in a new environment and you're trying to get to know people. And I feel like that's what happened with Paul, with that whole PO thing and the, not abrasiveness, but maybe lack of self-awareness in those conversations that he was having, particularly the one where he was having that conversation about why Ace got divorced after 1.5 years. I think it was less of a, I feel like that whole situation at the mixer was just less of him being a cocky human being and more of him just being real corny. And that was where his on switch took him, right? And I don't think it was an intentional dig at Ace. I think it was just, maybe some people are just not aware of the effect that they are having, right? Or maybe they're not reading the room accurately, right? Especially if it's a stranger and you don't understand that maybe like, okay, this is a new process, so I'm trying something different, but also they're still human beings and you have to have a level of respect in the conversation that you're having. That conversation that he had with her about, well, so you're going to check out after a year then? To calm down. That's not, you're just making assumptions, right? So anyway, I don't think that he was, I think he's more genuine this time around when he's in these individual settings, right? So Clifton and Dakia go out on a date. Again, not really that interesting. They're talked about sex. So, that was about it. So those were the individual dates. Nothing to go over there. Then there were group dates. So the first group date was Paul, Cornelius, Precious, Tiffany, and Sabrina. And they were at a ping pong date. And that was where Tiffany was in rare form or true form or what have you, because she was not feeling these men. And I don't know. She was giving very Camille vibes, right? Where it's like you can't even have good conversation because either you're stuck on this person or you're just in this narrow box of like, it has to look like this or it's not good, right? And I'm not talking about her conversation with Cornelius and the conversation about husband versus life partner. That's different. That's not a personality trait, right? That is a value. And so those are important if you're trying to determine who's going to be a good connection or a good fit for your life in general. If he's saying life partner and husband are interchangeable and you're saying, no, husband is my desire, then that is very much understandable. I didn't like her conversation with Paul. Paul was trying to get to know her, and I feel like asking interesting questions. But the problem is every time any man asks her a question, all of a sudden it's an interview or an interrogation. And you get to see that at the end. We'll get to that in a minute, where it's like, I'm not trying to interrogate you, make you feel uncomfortable, anything like that. I'm trying to get to know you. I thought that was what we were here for. I digress. So the next group date, was Clifton, Tori, Joy, Ace, and Carmen. And they went to this indoor driving range. There's a lot that happened there. Interesting stuff. And not even necessarily relationally or connection-wise. It was just individual personalities are showing up in an interesting way. So I just noticed some of that. So the first thing I noticed was Carmen's comment about her having her real hair. That it was weird to me because a couple things. That comment was weird because one, who cares? Why does it matter? I don't get why that was a factor in that situation. Like, I want him to feel my hair because it's real. So what? Because the very next thing I remember is that as soon as Clifton walked in, he was like, what's up with those blue contacts that you have in? So you're so obsessed with your real hair. Sis, blue contacts? And, and her comment about Tori having dreads. Now, if you're not a fan of guys with dreads, okay, cool. Like, who cares? But it was the way she expressed it. She was like, Tori has dreads. So no judgment, but judgment. For what? It's a hairstyle. And so it was so interesting to me because it was almost like not policing, but I mean, I felt like it was bordering policing, but it was almost just you're making comments about things when you should understand the context. You should understand that there are other factors to maybe why women, black women particularly, don't always wear their real hair out. And it generally doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's not long or healthy or what have you. That, let me just also I don't mean to be all over the place, y'all. But within that, her whole thing about, oh, my hair is real. It's also straight. And you have blue contacts in. And you didn't like that he had dreads. And you no judgment, but judgment. I'm curious as to listen, I'm not going to make an assumption. I'm just saying that there are a lot of factors that are adding up here that are not presenting to a good conclusion. I'm just saying that. Like, there are a lot of factors. And I'm not saying that just because you straighten your hair, that means anything, because I have had hair on every side of the spectrum, and I don't believe that if you straighten your hair or dye your hair or any of that, you're necessarily aspiring to whiteness or assimilating. It's just, sometimes hair is just hair, right? Sometimes hair is just expression. Sometimes it's part of your fashion. Sometimes it's just what I liked at that moment, right? But I think it's interesting that it's culminating this way, right? Well, it's my hair. It's all mine. Okay. Sure. Who cares? Anyway, so the other thing that I noticed on that date was Ace walked away. And I didn't think it was a bad thing, especially because of her explanation. And she didn't seem like she had an attitude at all. She was just like, everyone kind of paired off and it was a little awkward. So I just kind of stepped away to grab a drink and maybe just kind of regroup my mind. And then maybe I'll go back a little bit later. I didn't think anything of it because of the awkwardness of group situations, especially when it's uneven. And it's a date situation. So having a date situation where the numbers are uneven makes it difficult. And so I didn't think that was a bad thing. Again, she didn't have a bad attitude about it. I did, however, like the fact that Clifton noticed and he went over there, and whether or not he has an actual connection with her, the fact that he was, I personally love the protection aspect of men, right? And that can come in a lot of different ways. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go fight somebody for me. But the fact that he saw that she was off on her own and he wanted to check on her just to make sure she was okay and not feeling left out, that was protection for me. And I really enjoyed seeing that and just seeing the care that he had for her. And I like the fact that she accepted it and recognized it and appreciated it from him. I really liked their interaction there. Whether or not they have a connection, who knows? But that was a cute interaction. I really liked that. So that was all the dates. Then they get to the gentleman's lounge and they're deliberating. Weirdly enough, Paul kind of reverted to his weird, corny, excessive vibes there. And I'm wondering if this is something he does in group settings when he feels uncomfortable or lacking. Just a question. I'm curious. Because he was so much more genuine when he was able to be one-on-one with the women. So I don't know. It's interesting. That's an interesting place. Nothing really interesting happened to me, and nothing really interesting happened in the men's lounge that I could see. The point is, Tiffany got sent home, okay? Because generally what happens, and we see this a lot in Ready to Love, generally when you have a bad attitude, that gets scoped out pretty quickly. And eventually the men will be like, one person may like you and think you're cool, but the attitude has to be better, those women tend to go home. Oh, one interesting thing that did happen at the men's lounge, Laverne said Carmen might be it. And I said, really? Why? Didn't understand. Especially because he went on this tangent about how Ace was a Oprah and Michelle Obama personified in one woman. The pinnacle of peacefulness and love and calm and all manner of good things. And I didn't understand why Carmen struck him so much. It almost felt like, you know, how I said, like, they're both, it just, their conversation initially just felt like two introverts just having a conversation. I mean, two extroverts just getting along. It was almost like he likes her because, let me not make this assumption. I'm gonna leave that alone. Why? I didn't get it. So the gentlemen take out Tiffany and Ace. Now, the conversation with Paul and Tiffany. Again, Paul is being so genuine with her and just trying to have a conversation, asking her questions. And it was very telling that he said, you want to talk about fluff and I'm trying to get to know you. She said, I prefer fluff. Huh! That is telling. That is very telling. And so she gets all upset and he gives her the spiel. You're not ready to love. She said, who's not ready to love? I said, the person who's, I don't get it. But here's the kicker for me. She leaves, she's getting ready to leave. He's trying to be kind and says, well, give me a hug. She said, I don't want to. Then she get to her confessional. She said, I'm unbothered. I'm unbothered. Who's bothered? Sis, you are, because if you were not bothered, you would have given him a hug. You would have said, okay, I appreciate the experience, and kept it pushing. There is a reason why all these reviewers on YouTube be giving out the Naya Award every season, because there's always someone. And I don't understand the point of saying you're unbothered when really it hurt your feelings. Like, is it a weakness for you to feel the hurt that was happening at that moment? Like, even if it wasn't a big deal in the grand scheme of things, it's a television show. But if it hurt your feelings, it hurt your feelings. And that's okay to admit. Like, I don't understand that. So it's like, why can't people just accept? Also, it's almost like y'all don't understand the premise of the show. Do you not watch previous seasons and understand what happens when you're eliminated? Like, why are you always so surprised? There's however many of you, only 3 couples or 4 make it to the end. Clearly, if you do some math, some people are gonna have to get eliminated. I get being surprised that it was you and maybe this early on, but the attitude and the rudeness upon finding those things out and lack of introspection is telling. And that's why a lot of the things in the show, like in past seasons, this is not even particular to just this season or the last one. A lot of these people on the show just show up and it's like ready to get therapy, right? You need to get therapy. You need to do better about your interactions with people, because there's a reason why you're having no luck in dating. And it's not no luck in meeting people, because if you look at a lot of the interviews that the cast does after the show or when the show was wrapping up, a lot of them have said or say, it's not that I have trouble meeting people, it's about sustaining these relationships. And when you see these people's personalities come out in such a pointed way on TV, maybe there is a level of introspection. Even if you think you did the work to come on the show and do something different, there are pieces and portions of us that we can't see ourselves, and we might need it to be pointed out to us. And that's one place where I'm like, that would be a reason why you can't sustain a relationship and why your kids are scared of you getting hurt. But perhaps you're putting yourself in these positions where you are getting hurt. You don't want anyone to know anything. Anyway, that was my rant about Tiffany. I did not like her attitude this episode. It was not good. She was not being kind at all. Ace, on the other hand, peace personified. Ace goes on, Wiley takes her out because he has been saying from day one, all we talk about is yoga, and I don't understand. Like, but everyone else seems to really like her, and I don't get it. But she was at the bottom. So he takes her out, and they have a conversation. It seems like they get a little deeper than what maybe they got to at the mixer, where he said he couldn't get past yoga. And he stands up and goes and kind of makes a speech to her. And I was kind of like, why did you stand up? It was kind of like weird in the beginning to me. But then I thought maybe that was him making a gesture to be apologetic, but also to convey respect, right? Like, I'm going to stand up and look at you face to face and say this, that I enjoyed this conversation. I was wrong about saying that you were one dimensional, because I'm seeing all these different facets, and I would actually love to get to know you deeper. So I thought that was a very interesting thing to do, but also sweet. And that was the end of the episode. And the previews for next episode show Clifton having some allergic reaction to coconut, which sucks. Hope he doesn't leave the show, because he's nice. I like seeing him. He's really attractive. And I like how he interacts with Joy. They seem to really like each other. And past even just the physical, they really seem to enjoy each other's company. Sidebar, is it me, or does it seem like all the conversations about sex tonight was like everyone was trying to figure out which one of you is the celibate Christian one that we gotta watch out for or be nicer to, and act like sex is not as important to us as we think it is? And I'm saying that as someone who is not having sex until marriage. It's just funny to me, because it seemed like, y'all know, in past seasons, there's like, or at least in the past two, I'm trying to think if it was three. The past two, there's always been one person who's like, I would like to, and season one with the pastor. Yes, there's always been at least one person on the cast who is serious about not having sex until marriage, right? Or is serious about trying. So it's interesting, all the conversations about sex. And, if you are a person who sex is important to, you're going to talk about it. But the way they were doing it read like, which one of you is it? Because I need to make sure I watch out for that one. That's what it seemed like to me. I might be tripping, but y'all let me know what you think. But that was it for this episode. Glad Tiffany went home, because she was not very nice. And I'm excited for the next episode. Last season to me was very boring, and I'm hoping this season is a lot more interesting. It already seems more interesting than the last season. And I hope some of these people prove my opinions wrong, and they're just a lot more... I don't even know what words to say about that. I just hope that they prove me wrong about their behavior, But anyway, that's all I have for this review. Guys, check in with me next week, and we'll have another review of episode 3 of this season. I'm very excited. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and get down in the comments and let me know what you think. Bye.